Hello everybody. I'm going to do the first of many of my Adobe Creative Cloud tutorial series. This is primarily for reality television. I've worked in reality television as an assistant editor and am very familiar with some of the workflows implemented by a lot of these production facilities. Well, there has been some talk of some companies switching to Premiere or Adobe applications for their workflow from Final Cut. Sometimes they decide to go to Avid. But this series, I want to dive into using Adobe in a workflow environment for reality TV, since it's so multi-user heavy. So today we are going to go through, this is a really bad intro, FYI. We are going to cover Adobe Prelude, but first I want to set you up with how I am familiar with setting up my folder structure when dealing with shows with a large quantity of media, meaning like a terabyte of data every day dropped off for months on end. So to start off, I'm just going to show you what I've got. I've got my RAID drive set up. Most of the time you'll be working on likely a server, but pretend this is my server. And I've created, we're going to call this tutorials. So what I've got here is my tutorials folder, and that I've created for the show, let's say, and I set it up whether you're in Finder or Explorer. I'm right now in Windows 7, if you did not know, but this is the basic structure of how a project folder structure would be set up. We usually would have audio, and this is going to be all of our external audio that we'd get from set, ISO tracks and all that. So I have a folder for that. And then I have a media folder. This is usually our transcoded files and raw data from the field. And then I also will have a projects folder, and that's where all of my projects are in. And then on top of that, I also create an exports folder, and that's where we export rough cuts of shows and all of that. So to start off, let's jump into our media, and what I like to do is create a raw folder. So that's where all the raw files are going to go, and then I might create a transcoded folder. So and then for Premiere, this is another important thing that I find very useful, is I also create a scratch disk or a scratch folder in my media folder. So with all that, then let's jump over here. Because this is in the projects folder, because this is Adobe and it's the Adobe workflow, you are likely going to be including lots of different applications. So what I will do is I have my Prelude projects, which is usually just your ingest project, but on top of that I also create a Premiere folder, and I will also create an After Effects project in case I'm doing any visual effects or blurs or lower thirds or things that are dynamic linking. So that's my basic folder structure. So, and we can add to that if we need to, but so you can see how that sets up. For the raw, I usually separate by day. This is kind of big unless you're on a show that's going to be spanning over a couple years, that maybe it starts in the fall and ends in the spring. You might want to consider making year folders as well, but what I do to start off with, at least, is I'll create a folder for the day. So let's say today is the 7th, so I'll go 020714 of the year 2014. And then in there will be all of my different camera reels, like A camera, B camera, C camera, all those will be in that folder. And then the next day might be another day. So that gives you an idea of how things are set up. There's the basics. Let's dive into it. Prelude. I'm going to open Prelude. I got a quick start or a shortcut on my taskbar. Here it is, Adobe Prelude. It is kind of like the transcoding project or log and transfer in Final Cut. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a new project. And we're going to navigate to where I have that on my drive. Tutorials, Projects, Prelude. And we're going to call this one Tutorials. Let's see, what should we name it? Something fancy and fun. Let's call it Creative Cloud Tutorials. Creative Cloud Ingest 01. What I do is, this is my ingest project. In 01, I usually do numbers, so in case it has a problem, I just save a new copy and I have all of my old copies. And then if you're in a big working environment, it's also advised to add your initials so you know who worked on it last. And sometimes you might create a new project each time you do it, just so you have backup copies for safety purposes. So let's do that. And here is the project. This is the default screen that you'll see when you first open it. What I like to do is start creating at least my media folder structure that I'm going to be using in Premiere. So Control B will create a new bin, or it's this button down here, and I will call it media because that's usually what it's called in my project. Actually, scratch that. I number my bins so they come up in the same order and everything. So today, usually my media bin is, I'm going to take that back. Forget what I just said. Let's just call it media. And in here will be all of our folders. So let's see. I'm not sure what day was shot, but another important thing is you do need to have your card loaded. I have my card loaded. This was shot on a DSLR, but you might be shooting on many other formats, and it's likely going to be going more towards your tapeless format. But to start off, let's just click on Ingest so you can see where things are going. Here is my card that is loaded. And I jump into the folder with everything in it. This is one fun thing is, hey, look, it's me. One thing you will notice is in here, you've got all these different formats that are supported in Adobe Creative Cloud stuff. So you got red footage, P2, media, XD cam, Canon has one in here somewhere. But what's good about this is I believe this will also find your spanned clips if you're in a span clip and link them together. There might also be an option somewhere in here. So to start off, what I want to do is I want to find out when these files were created. So what I might do is reveal in Explorer, or you might be reveal in Finder. This was the 28th, and I will explain to you why I want to know that before I start shooting. So January 28th was when these were created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the ones I know were created on January 28th. This shouldn't be an issue if you have an efficient working field crew that's going to be dropping off your footage at the end of each day like they should. But pretend this was all shot and delivered at the end of the day. I'm going to go back here so that it matches. So it's 128.14. Obviously, I'm doing this a few days after I shot that. So this is, let's say this is the 28th. We've got all of our footage here, and I want to select that. So this is what we're going to be ingesting. To start off, if you come over here, you see your transfer options. Transfer clips to destination. This is really easy in copying footage. You've got a couple options. You could technically copy all of the raw footage to the drive and verify its file size and everything and clip numbers that way. That's one option. I'm going to show you how you can do it in Prelude and how I've been doing it for my own stuff as well. So to start off, we want to copy this to our folder. So we browse here, and then we scroll down to Tutorials, which is our show name, Media, Raw, and then drop in there, select that folder, and I'm going to call this Camera Roll 1. So you can add a subfolder, and this is CC, and most of the shows I've worked on usually have the 2 show name letters at the beginning. And the way I've found to be most efficient for my workflows is I do that, add the show code, and then the date, which is 01/28/14. Now, some people like to add an underscore here and then their camera reel. And to me, that's just unnecessary because, I don't know, I just find it annoying. And it adds more characters, and oftentimes some, especially with EDLs, you run into character limits and things like that. So I like to try and keep it as compact as possible so I'm not running into those issues if I have to export EDLs. So I do that, and then I do my underscore. Actually, I don't do my underscore. This is the folder name. This is where all the media is going to go into. So it will go in here, and then it will be A01. If I had a B01 and a B or CO1 and like an A02, those would also end up here, and I'd have like all of my different camera reels in this folder. So we're going to start as though that's going to happen. Now, if you need to transcode, you can also transcode it here, and you've got all your different options. You could do ProRes if you're on a Mac with ProRes installed, or you could do Cineform or DNX HD. I'm not going to transcode it because that's one of the cool things about Premiere is it reads things natively fairly well. But I am going to have the MD5 comparison. You can do file size comparison and bit by bit. I'm going to do MD5 because it's a little bit faster. This is also another important element, is adding a destination. Now, when you're on the field, you're most likely needing, or when you're on a show, you're most likely needing to back up in multiple places. And this is one way to do it. It sometimes is a little bit slower, and it might be faster just to copy to a local drive and then do it, just because of the verifying function. But it is an option where you can go in here, and let's say you have a store. Obviously, I'm way backed up on my drives. I'm working on expanding. This fills up fast too. Anyway, if you have an archive folder or someplace you're going to put a secondary backup of all your media, you can do this in one shot and add your destination. Let's say we're going, I'm just, for the sake of it, going to go here to transcoded, and I'm going to put it in here, let's say. And so I can put it all in there. I'm not going to do a backup just because it takes forever. But you can put it in there, select your file location if you're transcoding. Same thing, subfolder. It's the exact same idea. It just adds a secondary copying location to where you're going to copy your footage. So we're going to turn that off for now. Remove that from our process. But that is something very useful. And if you're on a show, you most definitely will be needing to do a secondary backup to an archive drive, an external drive, a mirrored drive, something like that. You're going to want your backup. Now, here's something else you can do is you can add your file metadata. You have to set presets and everything. Since I don't have any presets, go here, new preset, and you can add in information such as, let's say this is a what is this? Let's call it camera reel. So this was shot on a Canon 60D, so we know that. And if you've got multiple cameras, this might be helpful if you're shooting GoPro or if you're shooting C300 footage or red camera or something like that. This is an option that you can do in here where you can designate and have searchable data. You could even say this is the A camera, things like that. I'm not going to do that this time. Well, why not? Let's do it. This is A cam. And then you have to save your preset. Oh, it contains invalid characters. So probably the spaces is my guess. And we're going to call this tutorial. And I want to apply it to all destinations. So that's if I'm applying it to here and I've got multiple destinations, it'll go to the backup and the final place I will be editing from. This is what I find the most useful for what I do, is your file renaming. What you've got a lot of different options here as well. What I am going to do is I'm going to create a new preset, and we're going to call this new preset something once we get there. What I usually name my clips as is I will go the custom text, which is will be my letters. I will do the date, and then I can also set it this way. I personally, I know there's arguments about this, especially from audio guys. I personally like the month, day, year, because it just helps me find the footage much faster when I'm searching through stuff for editors and things like that. So month, day, year, I do the two-digit extension, and then I will create another one, custom text, and I usually go A01 for my camera reel and A01, B01. Now here's another thing that some people find very important, and frankly I've never run into this ever being useful. It creates longer file names and could really mess up an EDL if you're getting into super long file names with your clips, but some people like to include the file name. So if you're doing that, maybe it's something along those lines. Although if I do that, I want to add, I don't know if it's just me being crazy or something. I've been known to be crazy. You have your extension, so it's like this, and even sometimes people like that, but you know me, I like to keep it simple. And then you've got your file name, and it would be CC02, or the date A01, and then file name would be MVI 5613 or whatever your camera produces. If you are using this for transferring red footage, you might have another like 50 characters here, you know, things like that. I personally find it useless for what I've done if I've got the original footage and the original footage is renamed properly, then who cares? So I'm going to remove that, and instead I'm going to add auto increment, and then usually 2, because I've never had more than 100 clips on a card before. So if you really want, you can go 3, but I'm going to do 2. But here's another thing that I've noticed is, for some reason, Prelude's creation date, the way it reads here, is always is the day that you're ingesting instead of ingest date, which I would think that ingest date and creation date should be different. Like one should be when the file was created, the other should be when you're ingesting. But if you see there, it hasn't changed. And I've done tests to see if it updates, and this is just a sample, but no, every time it comes in with the date that's up there. So what I've been doing to avoid headaches and having to rename massive amounts of files, I just create a custom text. Let's move it up there, and I'll just put in the date, 28/14. And that's how it's going to rename itself. So let's save this template as tutorial. There. So we've got our transfer location with a subfolder created, which will be just this reel. We're verifying MD5 comparison. Bit by bit takes forever. It might be more accurate, but it does take a long time. And if you're at any company, you know about them being annoyed if it takes more than 5 minutes. They want it turned around right away. Yeah. So try MD5 if you want file verification. You can add your destination, metadata, info, things like that. Oh, that's what I did wrong. I'm sorry, people. We're going to edit this. This is going to be camera, and it will be Canon 60D. Then we're going to add another one, and this one is going to be camera reel, and we'll call it A01. So there you go. Save that, and now you can make your adjustments. So things like that. There is our file, and kabamzers ingest. There it goes. Now if you look down here, you'll see that the ingesting bar will go, and what it's doing is it's copying all of your stuff. Oh, that's something we forgot. Let's cancel this real quick. Yes, cancel ingest job. Make sure we didn't copy over anything in here. Oh, we did. Let's delete that so we're not confusing ourselves. All right. So we're ingesting. By the way, you double click here is the same as hitting ingest. Go like this. We're going to have to do a quick update. We're selecting the right files. It's going to the right place. This one is CC 012814A01. There's a subfolder it's creating, all that. Yep. Good. All right. So what we do want to do before we do that, I'm sorry, people. This is a real easy thing that will make things not crazy, is create your camera reel folder here and then select it. I'm not going to put it in the media. Why not? I'll tell you why. If you're doing, basically, if you put all of your stuff in here and then you later on there's some hiccups where it's sending multiple folders to Premiere. I will go over that in the next bit. That's not important at the moment. So, but select your folder that you want to ingest to. Choose your files. Click on a box once you've highlighted all of them. That's what I did. Highlighted, click box. Make sure you got this 012814A01. We're in the right folder there. Yep. Bam. Ingest. So as I was saying before, I got sidetracked with me messing up. It will say it's ingesting. You'll see the percentage of progress bar will go along as it's copying over. And over here you will see there's this. Let me clear that for now. What this is going to be down here is once it's done, you'll have all of your file verification. So I'm just going to sit here and let that go. I may have confused with my incomplete sentences, so in order to make up for my oops-a-doodles, I will sing you a song. We are ingesting in Prelude. Prelude, prelude, look at it, ingest. Progress bar is coming, oh yes. Yeah. Okay, everybody. Here we go. When it is all complete, my coffee was great. It was a little old, but it wasn't too bad. Maybe I would have well, I'll do a latte next time. Yeah. Anyway, here is the result. We had 6 clips we brought in, and they all ended up in our fancy folder we created. So we know that this is real A01 from the 28th. And here is a little something I want to show you. When you are done, you'll get this little icon at the bottom right of your screen. You click on that. You saw it earlier. And it is all the events listed in here. It'll bring up errors or anything. But for here, you'll see update, metadata task, ingest, and it tells you the file. It finished. And if you really want to, the one thing is it kind of throws it all over the place. There's that, but if we come down here, the copy task, which is that file, it's the same file, see? Yep. And then down here, copy task, destination, description, and we'll scroll this way. Verify MD5 file is same, value source, and it tells you everything. Value of destination file, and it basically says verified. It will come up with a red exclamation mark type thing, majigger dealio, over here if there was a failure, and it usually says failed. But this one looks like we had 6 clips, so if we really want to get down to it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. There's those. Now those are all indicating that we updated the metadata and ingested it successfully. And then the copy task. This is the MD5 comparison. So there's this one worked. Clip 2, that one was successful. Clip 3 was successful. Clip 4, clip 5, and clip 6. So we were successful on our ingest. So there you have it. There is the basic steps of doing your ingest. In the next little deal, I'm sure I will get more detailed, but for now, that's ingesting your footage. We'll cover in further tutorials working with Premiere and Prelude. Yeah, so there you have it. Okay. Toodaloo. Till next time. Over and out.